We've seen a couple of different ways to store numbers by using ints and floats. Processing also offers us a data type called string, which is great for holding a bunch of letters and numbers all in one place. Let's see how this works. We saw in the video on the keyboard that when the user types any key on the keyboard, processing calls a routine that we implement and hands us the value of the key that was pressed in a variable of type char. Char is short for the word character. Here I'm declaring a char variable of the name C, and the word char starts with a lowercase c. A char holds exactly one character, a letter, a number, a symbol, anything on the keyboard. We assign a value to the variable like this. Notice that what we're assigning is between single quotes. That's because it's a single letter or a single character. And of course, we can combine these two lines in one line. Here I'm declaring C as a variable of type char and assigning it the value A. Now suppose instead of a single character, we would like to store a string of characters, like someone's name. The data type for that is called string. Here I'm declaring a variable named cherry of type string. And notice that string unusually begins with a capital S. This is very important. Processing is case sensitive, as we know, so you've got to remember to use that capital S, or processing won't recognize that you're trying to create a variable of type string. To assign to a string, we do the same sort of thing we did before, but now we use double quotes. So single quotes are when we're assigning a single character to a variable of type char, and double quotes are when we're assigning a string of characters to a variable of type string. And of course, we can put these two lines together. Here I'm declaring a variable named cherry of type string, and I'm giving it the initial value Rainier, because Rainier cherries are my favorite kind of cherry. Now you might be thinking to yourself, hey, I can create my own strings. All I have to do is create an array of characters. And that's almost the same thing as a string, but not quite. If we create an array of characters, we might do it like this. Here I'm declaring an array of characters. The array name is berry1, and I'm assigning it the initial value of 4 characters, B, L, U, and E, for a blueberry. If I want to create a string with the word blue in it, I might do it like this. I'm creating a string, again, capital S. The variable is named berry2, and it has the initial value blue, now between double quotes. These are not the same thing at all. The thing in the top is actually 4 separate characters, one after the other. They just happen to be jammed together in an array. The thing on the bottom is a single composite object called a string. And you can't treat it like an array. We don't use the normal array operations to get at the characters that are inside. Instead, we use special operations that processing provides us explicitly for working with strings. There are a number of really useful string operations. Let's take a look at a couple of them. I'll create a string named S, and it has the initial value blueberry pie. Now the first thing we probably want to do with a string is to print it out. So I can just say print line S, where S is my variable name, and processing will print out blueberry pie. Now often we want to print out some additional stuff, and we've seen this before. We might type something like this. Here I'm calling print line. Let's take a look at what's inside the parentheses. First we see double quote, I like space, double quote. Well, we recognize that now as a string. Then there's a plus sign, S for the variable S. Then there's a plus sign, and then another pair of double quotes with an exclamation point in the middle. The plus is the way we put these things together. Notice that these are 3 strings. I like is a string because it's between double quotes. The exclamation point is a string, it's between double quotes. And of course, S is a string because we declared it that way. So we put these 3 strings together with the plus sign. Here, plus does not mean addition, it means concatenation. Just list one string after another. And so what's happening inside of this print line statement is we're creating one composite string built out of these 3 pieces. And what comes out is I like blueberry pie. So this is our first string operation, the plus sign. And it just takes 2 strings and puts them together one after the other to make a single new string. There are a bunch of other string operations, and they all have the same form, which is a little bit weird. It's a new kind of syntax. So let's take a look at this new syntax, and then we'll look at all of the string operations themselves. Let's suppose that our string is named str. To do something to this variable named str, we type its name followed by a period. Now we name the operation we want to apply, followed by an open parenthesis, and then any arguments that it might take, followed by a closed parenthesis. And then if it's a statement, we end with a semicolon as usual. The key thing here is this little period. This appears immediately after the name of the variable and immediately before the name of the operation. It's not a decimal point because this isn't a number. It's just the little way that processing distinguishes the name of the variable from the name of the operation. So all of the operations we're going to apply have this form. Name of the thing we want to manipulate, period. The operation we're going to apply, open parenthesis, any arguments, close parenthesis. So let's look at this in action. First, I'm going to find out the length of a string. So here I have a string S, its content is blueberry pie, and I'm going to find its length by using the operation length, L-E-N-G-T-H. To find the length of the string, I type S, the string I want to measure, followed by a dot, the word length, and then an open and close parenthesis. It takes no arguments. If you count up all the characters, including the space in the middle and the exclamation point at the end, there are 14 letters in this variable. So the value of len after we call s.length paren is simply 14. Well, now that we know how long the string is, we can start taking pieces out of it. There are two different ways that we get pieces out of a string, a character at a time or a whole chunk at a time. Let's look at a character at a time first. To get a character at a given position in the string, we call charAt. It takes an argument which tells us which character we want. Remember that everything starts counting at 0. So if I ask for charAt 0 for the string S, I get back capital B because that's the first character or the character in slot 0. If I ask for charAt 3, I get the character at position 3, which is the fourth letter because we start counting at 0, and that comes back as the character E. So charAt gives us back a single character at a given position in the string. But suppose we want to get back a whole range of characters. Maybe someone typed in their name as blueberry pie, and we want to pull out just their first name. How do we pull out a whole bunch of characters or a new string from an old one? We'll see the answer to that question in part 2.